Welcome back to r/Tales from the Front Desk, where Karen believes she can get a job in the hotel industry by berating the hotel manager. Also, be sure to stick until the end of the video for an incredibly satisfying revenge hotel story. Without any further ado, let's dive right in. And the first one is titled, I didn't get you fired, but I spoke with corporate. This happened about 2 years ago. We were sold out and housekeeping was trying to flip rooms as quickly as possible. Karen uses mobile check-in, but her room is not ready. She has a king reserved. Demands why her room is not ready because she used mobile check-in. I let her know, of course, that mobile check-in is still a request. She leaves and says she will come back later. A few minutes later, she calls and screams and demands to speak to a manager. My supervisor bumps someone, lets her check in. The next day she comes down, screams at me in the lobby, says she's going to call corporate complaint and specifically mention me by name. Thankfully, my GM of all people happens to be walking through the lobby during her tirade and witnesses this and even tries to speak with her and give her his card. But now that she's in full Karen mode, nothing is going to stop her from speaking to corporate directly. Because my customer service skills are poor and I need more training. So the review comes in and Karen was true to her word and apparently it was like the nastiest review. To be honest, I chose not to read it because I have anxiety depression and can ruminate over things and I really did not want that negativity in my life. It did, however, prompt a few of the executives to come over and give me a hug. That is how bad it was. As per protocol, customer care did reach out to the property, but my FOM did defend me and basically told them that even though Karen was checked into a room right after she complained, she continued to abuse the staff. I did cry a little bit, but life goes on and I moved on. Unbeknownst to me, Karen gets a generic, give us another try for a better review, comp slip because that is hospitality for you, and books another stay with us 6 months later. Unbeknownst to Karen, I was never fired or even written up because of her shenanigans, because that's hospitality for you, and 90% of our job is putting up with bullcrap no matter how well she slept at night thinking I was. So, on that fateful day, I had actually graduated to phones at that point and was only doing backup front desk. My coworker rang for me and I headed up and I see a woman with her back turned. It should be noted that this Karen did not have the typical Karen haircut, so I did not recognize her right away. When I ask if she needs assistance, she turns around and I recognize her right away and she recognizes me and the look on her face is pretty effing awesome. She is in complete shock that I am still here and I'm not fired even though she spoke to corporate and mentioned me directly by name. It is all on her face. So our exchange goes something like this. Me, hi, how may I assist you? Karen, yes, I need a microwave sent to my room. Me, sure. I smile really big. May I get your last name? Bleachface. And your first name? Karen. Okay, Mrs. Bleachface, one microwave coming right up. May I assist you with anything else? Karen gives me a long dirty look. No thank you. Storms off. I pretended I did not know her because I did not want her to think she got under my skin and that she was just one of many guests, and I'm sure it made her furious. I'm glad that she saw that her temper tantrums and ugly review did not ruin someone's life and get them fired from their job like she thought it would. Although sure, it's not the first time she has tried. F you, Karen. Another happy ending, I graduated from the front desk to the accounting department where I worked in a basement and no one came to see me. It was awesome and I hope I can go back soon. And guys, I'm curious, do we have any ripe stars that are working in the hotel industry? Did you ever have to put up with similar crap? Let us know in the comments. And for the other ripe stars who are not working in that industry, did you ever have to leave a similar nasty review? Let us know in the comments. And the next one is titled Vacation Inn Stories. I hope you enjoyed the Southwest. Hello everyone, first off I have to say I am blown away by the positive reactions. I'm glad to see you all are enjoying these as much as I am enjoying writing them. Thanks for the kind words. Now, anyone that has been in hospitality for a long time knows that we see all and hear all. Our stories or experiences range from unbelievably funny to WTF to blind raging to soul-crushingly heartbreaking that you try not to share those. We see humanity at its finest and sometimes at its most desperate. I'm going to share a tale with you today, one that still gives me a lump in my throat after 15 years, but makes me smile knowing that I made someone happy. I had really started enjoying my job as a GSA as much as I despised grown men throwing fits because we forgot to leave them an extra pack of coffee or a towel. Things for the most part were pretty good at the vacation inn. I met a ton of interesting people, learned valuable communication skills and had great, albeit crazy, co-workers. A quick preface to this story: our hotel was huge on experiences. In the evenings we did margarita making classes, salsa making classes, traditional Mexican fresh fruit waters classes during the week. It was about an hour into my shift when a couple walks in through the sliding double doors. A couple in their late 40s, early 50s, I could tell that they had been driving for a while by the stretch walk we all do after an 8-hour car ride. I greet them with the typical, "Good afternoon, welcome to the vacation inn." Right off the bat, something felt off. Mr. and Mrs. Green were smiling, but it was a forced smile. I did not give it much thought at first, since I saw this often. Maybe an argument on the right here, but I will do my best to make their stay memorable. We get to the usual small talk, where they were coming from, weather, etc. They were from the Midwest, high school sweethearts, married for 20 years, traveling on a cross-country sightseeing tour. That is super cool, so why this city? She said she always was fascinated with Southwest culture, decor and always wanted to see the desert. Awesome, where are you going next? I remember saying something to that effect out loud, and through a brave smile, Mrs. Green's eyes got a little misty. The feeling of something being off hit me like a semi-truck. Mrs. Green was wearing a wig and was way too thin for her age. Even writing this makes my heart sink. Well, if I make it, I've always wanted to see a California beach. I have terminal cancer, so I don't know how long I will last. Mr. Green gives her a hug and says something like, "It's okay, honey, we're gonna see that beach." F my life, I had never dealt with this. What do you say? I'm sure she had heard a non-sympathetic, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that," everywhere she went. I am a 21-year-old at the front desk trying to hold back tears as she's telling me this. I don't remember exactly what I said, but it was something like, "Who needs California? They are all snooty anyway. I promise you, you will fall in love with our city and won't want to leave." They both laugh and say thank you and make their way up to their room. I walk to the back office to try and compose myself. The chief asks what's wrong, so I tell him about Mr. and Mrs. Green. He says, "Chief, this is your time to shine. Make this a memorable stay for them. Light bulb." I reach out to our sales team and ask if there's any way we could do a special experience since we only do them on specific days. As soon as I tell them about the Greens, she starts bawling. She starts preparing everything for them: salsa making, margarita making, get her a little ornament piñata, iconic pics of our city, etc. I do my follow-up call with the Greens and ask how they found the room, yada yada yada. I tell them whenever they are ready to come down to the lobby because I forgot to give them a welcome gift. Mrs. Green was going to take a nap since she was not feeling well, so they came down about 3 hours later, around 4 or 5-ish. Mr. Green says they really did not need the gift as they were only staying one night, and I tell them, "No, I insist." Chief and I walk them over to the lobby where the tables were all set up for them, and my sales manager says, "Mr. and Mrs. Green, welcome. Have you ever made a traditional margarita?" Mrs. Green was obviously confused but went along with it. The squid put on his best, most professional face and showed them both how to make the perfect margarita. I mean, he put on a show with the bartender flair, throwing up the metal mixing cup, spinning the bottle in true showman fashion. Lenko, the degenerate chef, showed them how to roast the jalapenos, tomatoes, tomatillos and onions to make a traditional salsa. They even brought out the traditional molcajete, They also taught them how to make guacamole. I mean, they did the works. She was wearing a mariachi sombrero, took pictures holding the lobby singer's guitar. Every event made Mrs. Green's eyes glow brighter and smile bigger. Towards the end of the night, the regulars at Tequila basically took them in as one of their own, and the Greens were elated, just blown away. I would like to think that for a minute or two, the Greens felt this was the best part of their trip. The next day, Mr. and Mrs. Green extended their stay for 2 nights. They were so blown away by the hospitality that we showed them that they stayed and checked out all of our sites, took pictures and ate the best Mexican food of their lives. Unfortunately, I did not get a chance to say goodbye to them since I was off for the next 2 days. Of course, I asked my co-workers about them and they said they really did not see them since they had been out and about, but they would stop by the desk and ask for MapQuest printouts. And yes, I am that old. A few months later, we received a postcard from California. Mr. and Mrs. Green had made it to the California beach. They thanked the whole team for such a wonderful stay and a wonderful memory. They did say Californians were snooty. I wish I had kept that postcard. I don't know how long Mr. Green was able to hold on to Mrs. Green, but anytime I think of that story, I would like to imagine she got better and she was able to see all the sights she wanted to see and she was able to show off her killer margarita skills. One thing for sure, anytime I see a bartender shaking up a margarita, I think of her. Now I am at the front desk trying to finish my profit and loss report with watery eyes. I hope this did not ruin anyone's day. I thought to myself that as crazy as some days are, we have to remember those days we made someone smile in their darkest moments. Thanks for reading. And wow, I have to say this guy writes beautiful stories. Therefore, please let me know in the comments if you want to hear more Tales from the Front Desk stories. In addition, I would like to know what is your favorite Mexican food in case you're a fan of Mexican food. Let us know in the comments. And the next one is titled Dog Checks into the Hotel Literally. Hey my FD peeps, I'm temporarily laid off but thought I would share a cute story to bring up some spirits. When I worked in one of my pet-friendly properties, we had this lady who would always check in with this beautiful Shiba Inu. The baby was black, always perfectly groomed and looked so soft and touchable. Also very well behaved, always said when told, did not run off, always listened to the owner, perfect guest. Always wanted to pet the baby, so I had offered treats with the owner's consent of course and pet the baby. I was young and in hindsight the owner was probably annoyed by me because I loved her dog. Anyways, one day the owner was in a good mood and was like, "Do you want to see her do a trick?" Hell yeah! She gave her dog her ID and CC and the dog put it on the desk and used its nose to push it over to me. And when I gave the lady the keys, she asked the dog to grab it and give it to her. It was amazing, makes me smile. Edit, whoa, an award really? For a dog check-in? Gotta talk about dogs more often. As you guys might know, I'm not the absolute biggest dog fan, I prefer cats, but honestly Shiba Inus, or whatever they are pronounced, would probably be my go-to breed when it comes to dogs. Those dogs are just incredibly cute. Do you have any favorite breed when it comes to dogs? Let us know in the comments. And the next one is titled, No Karen, that's not how you gain employment. My husband runs a motel. We live in the apartment right behind the front desk office. I get to listen in on extreme Karen conversations. This is a privately owned 2-star budget motel in a small town with literally 2 employees. Thanks to the world's current situation, husband and head housekeeper who both live on site and work 24/7. The place is old, there are worn-in stains, but it is always clean and sanitary. Our housekeeper is immune compromised, so they keep things squeaky clean, for their own safety and for the sake of the guests. A Karen left this morning, officially my least favorite customer of all time now. Before she checked out, she came to the desk and handed my husband a 2-page letter berating them on their performance, complete with an itemized list of issues on the back. Image of letter linked in the comments. She also asked for an application and left her number. For the record, she and her husband were treated with absolute respect during their stay, despite the abuse they subtly slipped staff whenever interacting. Their rooms were checked and found to be clean. Her complaints were about typical wear and tear around the property. Could we use some updates in our buildings? Sure. But are they acceptable / have they passed annual inspection as is? Yes. They paid under $70 per night for one of our better rooms. Her complaints were entirely invalid all across the board. Good luck finding employment elsewhere, dear. Your apparently extensive experience in the industry should do you some good, so as long as you can keep that personality of yours in check. And guys, I'm afraid the OP in the story is not aware that the best way to gain employment is by first berating the boss and other co-workers. That's always what you should do when you apply for a job. As a bonus, I won't read these because it's a bit too long, but here you can see the letters that Karen gave them. And the last one is titled, I thought she was checking in for a one-night stand. Boy, was I glad to be wrong. So, this happened a while ago, before worldwide quarantine became a thing, but I had not reached the karma minimum to post it till recently. Enjoy. I had been working as a front desk agent for about a week. It is my first time working at a hotel, so I'm still learning the ropes, even though I had previously worked as a check-in agent for a cruise line. I'm working the afternoon shift and things have been pretty slow, couple of check-ins here and there, and that's about it. It is about 7 PM when this lady, we will call her Libby, comes in and, after talking things out at the valet, makes her way over to me. We exchange greetings and she tells me she would like to reserve a room, but only for a couple of hours. Obviously, we are not a motel, so I let her know the minimum of time she could reserve a room for would be a full night. After asking what the price would be, $240, which is way too much for the kind of hotel I work at by the way, she agrees and hands me her credit card. This is where things get weird. As soon as I ask her for ID to make the reservation, Libby backtracks and says that she does not want her name anywhere on the reservation and would like to make it under the name of the guy who would be joining her later instead. I pause for a moment and after asking her again if she was planning on using the room as well, I tell her that I at least need to put her name into the accompanying list for the room. I reassure her that only the employees would be able to see said list and that no, the guy she was planning to meet would not see it. I would like to make it very clear that throughout this whole interaction, Libby has been super composed, kind and understanding. At this point, however, I'm just thinking she's here for a one-night stand and does not want the dude to know anything about her because she's probably married or something. Which I can work with, sure, but why not just actually get a motel, lady? This theory of mine is further solidified when Libby asks me to make a note in the reservation so that if any point we need to address her by name around the dude, we would not call her by her real name and instead she gives me a fake name, or so I thought, to address her by. At this point, I'm obviously bewildered, but still trying to be accommodating and trying really hard not to let it show how much I'm trying to figure out what the heck is going on. We go through the rest of the check-in process and she even goes as far as showing me a picture of the dude so I will know who he is when he comes in. I hand her the key and she heads to her room. About an hour later, mystery dude walks in, let's call him Jake, my co-worker who has no clue of anything, ends up checking him in. So I don't really get to see much of Jake. To be honest, at this point I still was not giving the whole thing much thought other than that's a bit weird. Not even 30 minutes have passed since Jake went up when Libby comes back down and hands me both keys. They had both received one each, says thank you in the most serious yet cordial way and then walks off. Multiple thoughts went through my mind as this lady was making her way to the valet. First, that was way too fast even for a quickie. Second, why the heck did she give me 2 keys? Where's Jake? Third, Libby, please tell me you did not murder Jake. Security is standing behind me staring Libby down, probably having the same thought process as I am. The supervisor for security usually spends the night hanging out at FD. My coworker and I are whispering with each other, still trying to figure out what the heck happened, because that did not look like a lady who had just had a pleasant romp in the sheets. Cue Jake coming down the stairs and, okay, we can breathe, he's not dead. Now what happened next we could not see, because we suddenly had an onslaught of distressed passengers, like 30. I wanted to die, so I thought I would not find out what the heck had actually happened between Libby and Jake. But then the worker from the valet came over, and boy did he have some tea to spill. Turns out that Libby had gone as far as asking valet guy to park her car in a way that the license plate would not be visible. Why? Because turns out that Jake is Libby's husband. And you might be asking yourself by this point, why has this lady gone through so much trouble to hide anything that might give her identity away from her husband? Well, dear reader, because the alias that Libby gave me just so happened to be the name of the girl Jake was cheating on her with. This woman somehow got her cheating ass husband to believe that his girlfriend had booked them a sweet night at the hotel, only for him to show up and find his wife sitting on the bed instead. This BAMF of a woman came back downstairs after probably massacrating the heck out of this idiotic boy with not a hair out of place, and calmly had the valet bring both of their cars back, and then patiently waited for Jake to get his sorry ass back to the lobby so that she could extend her hand and demand their house keys from him. She then got into her car and just drove away. The only thing that would have made this even better was if Jake's girlfriend had also been there to tear into him as well. I like to think she had a part to play in this whole thing, since how else would Libby have managed to trick him into getting to the hotel? Point is, this woman is all I aspire to be. And with that, we have reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's content, and if you did, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join our amazing community. Furthermore, don't forget to go to r/ripe stories on Reddit to post your own stories if you want me to read them out in a video. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I see you again tomorrow.